Hello, Sweetbridgers. How are you? This is Scott Nelson coming to you from another hotel room. Lots of them. I've got lots of questions here today, so let me dive into what's going on, and we'll see what we can find out. Let me take our first question here. What is synchronized accounting all about? Wow, that's a loaded one. So synchronized accounting was discussed briefly in our original white paper as the accounting protocol, which is the third layer in the stack that we had in the white paper. It's actually the most fundamental part, but we were going to release the first two pieces first. And it's what enables all the other things to work, and it was seen as kind of the core of what we wanted to try to build. But it was also something we knew people wouldn't understand. So it wasn't worth expending a lot of energy on. Synchronized accounting is the ability to integrate all of the information that you would need to be able to audit a transaction in the same way that an auditor or a government regulator would audit a transaction today. And in order to do this, you have to be able to take information about the identities of the organizations or people, their authorizations, the identities of the assets, if there are assets involved. You have to be able to take the legal agreement and the regulatory environment under which the legal agreements are operating, the legal jurisdictions for taxation, and the accounting treatments for all of the parties that are part of the transaction, and any payment reconciliation. And you need to be able to automate all of this into, ideally, an atomic transaction. And if you can do that, then blockchain can actually achieve its promise. If you cannot do that, most of what people are talking about is just naive and won't actually be able to happen. So we knew this all along, and we had been working on this behind the scenes. And the synchronized accounting is just the name we came up with it after actually talking to people like Big Four auditors about what we were doing. And they said, oh, what you're doing is you're doing synchronized accounting. So we said, oh, okay, didn't know that name. Synchronized accounting has been used in existing environments within existing corporations to synchronize multiple sets of books within the company. We actually make this happen across counterparties. And that's what enables us to do many things that other people aren't going to actually be able to do. Because much of the focus on just legal, for example, has actually led to more work for people in accounting and audit, because all they've done is they've just changed the mechanism used to provide a trail of evidence. They haven't actually synchronized anything in a way that will allow it to be trusted by existing institutions and existing regulatory bodies. It's an advancement, and it will ultimately lead to things being more efficient, but it just injected a whole bunch of new variables that people didn't know how to deal with, and so it didn't really help a lot. And that's what synchronized accounting is about. So let's take the next question. Have you thought about an IEO, initial exchange offering? No, we haven't. We're fine with what we're doing, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's take the next question. Why is it a good thing that Sweetbridge is not on exchange? Okay, well, some people have heard me say this, that it's a good thing. There's multiple reasons, but probably the most important is that Sweetcoin is not like other blockchain tokens. As a result, people don't understand it, and they treat it as if it is like another token, which it's not. And it's unfortunate that they think that way because they miss its value. And putting it into an environment where people would trade it speculatively actually isn't going to really serve the owners of its best interests. So Sweetcoin is something which we are going to see more of. It was, as far as I know, potentially the very first version of a tokenized right. A tokenized right is you can think of it like a derivative, but most people don't know what a derivative is, so that doesn't help. But it empowers somebody to be able to do something. It provides them with a legal right, and it is a right to lower cost, and that any time within a network. A right has value based on what the right grants to somebody, not based on some artificial idea of the time value of money, not based on some crazy idea of speculative trading, but based on what it actually allows you to do. And what Sweetcoin does is it is a right to future lower cost of purchases within a network. And that right is valuable because it reduces the cost to a party in the future. And its value is directly related to how much it reduces that cost. Now, the design of Sweetcoin has been completely missed by many people. It is a highly engineered financial instrument. And it is designed so that as the network grows, the amount of value it produces to a party grows, yet it is not a security because it doesn't produce any value to somebody unless they participate in the network. So they have to actually be an active participant. Now, this means it's non-extractive financially. That means that you can't earn that money by just holding it and not buying a network. But it also means you don't spend it. It's designed to never be traded. It's designed to be held by people that want to get those discounts. Now, the key to getting it to be valuable is to actually get it to be used within actual commercial environments that people would use on a regular basis. Initially, we thought we would do this in the crypto space through lending against crypto assets. But that market's collapse made that very difficult for that to occur. And the more likely place that we now believe that we can make that happen is within large enterprises who already have things that they discount, but where they lose value when they discount. Everything from early payment discounts to trade discounts to reward programs are all examples of ways people discount things today and provide a lower cost. But when they do it, they just lose the money. It's just lost. They just gave someone a lower cost. They didn't get any value for it. Sweetcoin allows them to pull the future value of that revenue stream reduction in the future. It's like the inverse of a bond into the present and actually be able to monetize that now. And because it is mined by increase in activity, so it's mined in the network through the protocol as the network grows, it is released to parties who grow the network as a reward for them growing the network. What that means is both buyers and sellers earn it in the network. Now, that means that unlike mileage programs or unlike cashback or sales or anything, the seller doesn't just lose the money. They actually gain an asset that has value that they can use to either sell to parties in the future or they can use to benefit themselves in things that they buy from somebody else. And that's the design. Now, by putting it into an environment where it's on exchanges prior to that actually being used, what you will get is just people treating it like every other crypto asset out there that is just a speculative instrument that has no real economic value behind it. And this is not like that. This has real economic value. And the worst thing in the world for somebody would be to basically think of it as it is seen today, like any other crypto asset that's gone in the toilet over the last year, because the bubble burst on speculation and not seen for what it is, a valuable right. And the worst thing in the world that we could have happen for people is that people basically dump their Sweetcoin because they think it's a speculative instrument, and we aren't doing any of the speculative hype building kinds of stuff because we're real. We're the real people. So that means that they would lose that value. And we don't want that to happen. We actually want people to be able to have that value and to participate in the value that we are trying to create. Next question. Let's see. What is Sweetbridge doing to make Sweetcoin more valuable? Well, we are working with large organizations, as I said, that already produce discounts of some form or another in pricing, and helping them see how adoption of it within their organization would allow them to capture value that today is just squandered. It's just wasted. And so by creating new value out of that, and we've done multiple financial and economic projections for companies that show incredible results, things that actually change the value of their balance sheet. We won a reward for this with SAP and Lufthansa by showing how we could take 1.8 billion euro liability and convert it into a 1.5 billion euro asset, and create 1.5 billion euros of assets for their customers at the same time. All with the exact same cash flow and with the same effect on their balance sheet as on their P&L as the existing mileage program. And that's just one of them that's out there in the public, but there are many more that we are working on, and that's what's going to make Sweetcoin valuable. Just next one here. What are network operators, and what value do they bring? Okay, so network operator is like a miner in the Sweetcoin network. But they don't earn money by mining new coins. New coins are released in the Sweetbridge network as a result of someone growing economic activity as a reward for people that grow the network. Network operators are needed in our network because we are dealing with real world things. And so we have to have entities which have regulatory licensing for doing things like AML, CTR reporting, which is the requirement by most governments to get reporting on value transmissions between parties, that do other forms of loan regulatory compliance and licensing. So these are licensed bodies that provide services within a jurisdiction, that provide a place for someone to get, in essence, the use of somebody's license when they conduct transactions in exchange for them getting a fee. They also provide computer services like miners would. They actually run hardware that executes the protocols that are the Sweetbridge protocols. And they are critical to us for two reasons. One is they allow us to work with real-world transactions in regulatory compliant ways. And the second is that they are themselves going to be vested in growing the network because they get more fees when that happens. In many cases, these will be initially existing firms. In fact, the ones that are, there's only one new entity that we currently have that's setting itself up as a network operator, and it's being sponsored by Sweetbridge itself. The rest are all entities that exist already who are setting themselves up as a network operator. And they're very similar in structure as a sovereign, if you know anything about the sovereign protocol, steward would be. And that's what they do for the network. Next question here. Will enterprise deals directly result in network revenue and or Sweetcoin appreciation? Well, that will depend on what the enterprise deal is. So the Sweetbridge protocol is the Sweetbridge synchronized accounting protocol, which is the backbone of everything, is open source. And so somebody using that may or may not, as anybody using any open source thing, may or may not generate any revenue. But if it's going to be used for doing regulatory compliant transactions, and if it's going to be certified and validated by the Sweetbridge network, then it will need to be operated by a network operator, which would actually generate revenue for the network operator. And a small amount of that revenue from each network operator would actually go to benefit Sweetbridge and to help maintain the software. 10% basically of what the network operator makes gets released to Sweetbridge until November 1st, 2024, at which point Sweetbridge dies. Not the network, but Sweetbridge Inc. goes away. At that point, the network will be entirely taken over by the network operators. Whether or not a organization uses Sweetcoin in its process, whether they want to tokenize and extract value out of discounts or things they're giving away, whether they want to create the benefit of its loyalty system or not, will be a decision each individual organization would make. But the more organizations that are out there that are using the technology, and the more they see what happens to organizations that actually do use Sweetcoin, we believe that the result will be the more that will actually use it. Because people will say, well, look at what so-and-so did, how that helped them, what that impacted their balance sheet by. Let me go do that myself, because I do the same thing. I give people discounts. I give people early payments or trade discounts, or I give customers other forms of discounts, and so they'll want to do that, and that would lead to direct appreciation. In fact, Sweetcoin has very powerful appreciation mechanics, very powerful. If we get even a modest, large organization to put all of its discount mechanism through the platform, it would be worth a tremendous amount in terms of cash back value to Sweetcoin holders. And that would increase, obviously, the desirability of it so that people would want it, and that will be the key to its long-term value. What are my thoughts on JPM coin? I don't have any. And what impact you see it as a positive development or impact on BRC? I don't think it has any impact on BRC at all, other than to make it more acceptable. I don't think it'll have any impact on BRC whatsoever. BRC is being used by Organimark, for example, in the cotton implementation that we're using. It's being used to tokenize the movement of cash and to create an audit trail on that cash between parties, to do things such as prove that there's no slave trade going on, that parties are that are being paid are being paid a livable wage, and that parties receiving the money aren't underage workers in a sweatshop kind of environment, and so it's being used as a mechanism of transparency. As far as I know, none of those things are done by JPM, and I think the digitization of value is going to be something that everybody does. It's not going to be the kind of thing where there's going to be one coin. This idea that people have that there's going to be one stable coin is just idiotic. It's the kind of stuff that people in the market talk about, but it's unlikely to be true. In my opinion, it's it's much more likely that you're going to see systems that allow for the tokenization of anything, and value is just one of those things. That's certainly where we're going. That's certainly the belief we're operating under. One of the things that is not well understood is that you do not need to create a blockchain token to use distributed ledger technology to tokenize something. And in fact, this is a case where so much of what happens in our space has been overhyped and understood, even by the people in the space itself who know a lot about the technical details. They don't really understand a lot about how the real world works. And a check, for example, is a tokenization. It was a paper tokenization for sure. It had to be physically transferred, but it was a token. It was a token for a certain amount of value that you could reclaim out of my account if I gave you a check. And so that is just another form of token. There are going to be many, many, many of these. In order to be easily exchanged, it doesn't have to be on a blockchain. What it has to be is standardized. And so a lot of things are going to become standardized, which is really the benefit of tokenization. It's not that they're tradable. What makes them tradable is that they're standardized, and you don't need to have lawyers or legal people involved with the process of exchanging it. You don't need accountants or others to be involved. You don't need a third party. But there are lots of ways you can do that. And there's lots of ways that existed before. If you ever went to an amusement park and got a little paper ticket for going on a ride, that was a form of tokenization. So all we're talking about now is digitizing tokens to be something that can be digitized and transferred through mechanisms that are very simple and they can be trusted. Another common misunderstanding is that you have to have a blockchain to prevent the double spending problem. This is also just flatly not true. There's lots of distributed technologies that can solve the double spending problem that don't require you to have a massively distributed centralized ledger, which is what blockchains tend to be. Not all of them, but that's what they tend to be. And that, I think, as a design pattern, is likely to be seen as something which isn't interesting. JPM, I think what it does is it validates the idea that change is in the wind, that new things are possible, and it may have signaled a change in the market. It may be seen historically as kind of a beginning of the thawing of the crypto winter, but time will tell. Let's see here. Got any more?
There was a question
Yeah, one more here. Why is it a good thing that Sweetbridge is not on an exchange? Well, because, as I already said, people would just misunderstand it, and they would probably trade it at a point when they shouldn't, and then they would regret it, and that wouldn't be good. And also, there are some questionable legal practices that exchanges are involved in, that if you subsidize your coin and whatnot on exchanges in order to get them listed, you might be running the foul of certain kinds of legal requirements.
Scott, if you see in the thread,
right about there's a one. What are you most excited about?
Let's see.
in this thread here, there's some questions that people put.
Let me see here. When I say the accounting protocol is blockchain agnostic, what does it mean? It is not, the accounting protocol does not run on Ethereum, first off. It doesn't run on any blockchain. It's like many of the better protocols that you're starting to see now out there. It's largely peer-to-peer that uses blockchains for as little as possible. The only thing you need a blockchain for that related to the accounting protocol is the chain of evidence. That's done just through storing hashes. So any blockchain that can store hashes can serve that purpose, and hence it is blockchain agnostic. Also, because it's peer-to-peer, it's super highly performant. It avoids all the public-private, problem questions about data and information, GDPR stuff, all that, and allows for information to be shared just between the parties that care about it and between the validators that ensure the regulatory compliance, but doesn't require it to be shared to parties that don't have any business having access to it. Some people have questions. The possibility to ask them here, or is only pre-asked ones are being responded to? No, I believe you. I don't actually know how to do this. I've never done it before, so this is we're trying this out. But you can ask questions. Do you think we will be able to hear about any of the bigger partnerships anytime soon? Yes. Let me figure out how to say this. So we're talking about doing things that change potentially the enterprise value of a company. Let's take a public example. Lufthansa, 1.8 billion euro liability changed to 1.5 billion euro asset. Now, if you're a public company and you're going to do something that might affect your balance sheet by more than the income of your annual operations, you're probably going to be really, really careful about letting that cat out of the bag. Anyway, I won't say any more about that. How is the funding round going? Have you secured your funding required yet? No, we haven't finished the funding round. We are still in that process. Yes, we have secured some additional funding. It hasn't closed yet, but we have. A few questions that I was asked to pass on. Any updates on Lufthansa? I've said all I can say. What are goals for Sweetbridge this year? So our goals this year are to cement our relationships with our distribution channels. Let's see how much. So what I can say is that Sweetbridge's strategy is to use investment banks and management consulting firms as its distribution channel into major organizations. The reason that we want to do that is that these people already have relationships at very high levels of the organization, and they are also already trusted advisors. Our objective has been to cement our relationship with these entities this year, and that's what we're doing. Are Bitcoin and Ethereum redundant being in centralized ledgers? I'm not sure I understand the question, but they are in massively distributed and redundant centralized ledgers, which are probably not very efficient ways of solving the problem, but were interesting experiments, like the Kitty Hawk was and the Model A. We don't fly them today or drive them today, but they were very important in our, evolution. See, the value of Sweetcoin pegged to total value of the Sweetbridge network. No, its value is based on the amount of cashback going through the network divided by the number of Sweetcoin that are being used to obtain that cashback, which is both a function of how many Sweetcoin have been released to the market and how many people are using it for that purpose. Since Sweetcoin has four purposes, one of which is stake for a network operator. Network operators have rules they have to follow, regulatory compliance they have to adhere to, and they have to post stake for that they could lose if they don't provide those services or perform those activities. And so that Sweetcoin being used for stake will soak up some of the Sweetcoin in the market. And then once we have lending up and running, it will be able to be used as collateralization and also as sort of like an insurance or a bond in increasing the value of collateral. See, as a rate of change of technology, innovation increases exponentially, how do you see a given government's ability to regulate, plan, and manage effectively this change? I think that's going to be an increasing challenge. I think that's already a challenge. I think smaller governments will succeed over larger ones. There's a desire in many places of the world to kind of fractionalize government already. The Brexit initiative in the UK is an example of that. I think that there's good solid reason for doing that, because as things are smaller and the pace of change increases, you can get people together to talk about what we want to do about them, where in the larger nations like the United States or the EU, it becomes very difficult to get a bunch of people together to agree on anything. And in the modern world of social media and the binary kind of communication that creates, it becomes difficult to get people to have a rational conversation about something. When will Arizona Sandbox go live? Well, that is more dependent upon some of the funding sources that we're working on. More of that, hopefully, here in the next on that in the next quarter. Hi, Scott. What currently has you most excited? The traction that we're getting, for sure. Very, very, very excited about that. I wish that we could disclose lots of things, but we can't. But if you could participate in some of the things, the demos and things that we're doing, some stuff we're showing off about the protocols and how they work, some conversations, it's really, really, really exciting, and it's very, very fun. It's serious fun. Take one more question here. What team cutbacks are you able to keep up? With team cutbacks, are you able to keep up with delivery against what needs to be done? So from paying customers, yes. For other things, no. Although we have been working to replace the work that we were doing with partners who will take some of those things, which was always the intent. The intent was always to have a partner-based model that was doing a lot of the work. We were just trying to jumpstart it. Now that is not being done, we will allow those partners to do it. The good news is that the real guys are still in the room. I think in many ways the current crypto winter is a great blessing. It really got rid of a lot of the hypesters and got rid of a lot of the people that were manipulating things. And the real people are still there. The real people were kind of quiet already. The real people were already people that mostly weren't recognized, doing a lot of work that most people don't know about. And I think everyone's going to be kind of surprised where things are 2 years from now. Anyway, need to go. We're signing off now. Thank you, everybody, for participating in our first live. Love to get feedback about how this worked. Thank you.